I don't say much, but I've been around on a lot of sales floors. And I guess I've heard about as much talk as any car in the business. I know a little myself about selling, too. How many Pontiac sales do you think could have been made without me? Now, the selling of is a subject very dear to my heart. Naturally, a car in my class has a position to maintain, among other cars on the road and among the people who come in contact with my owner. I deserve to be tops in comfort, convenience, safety, and appearance. I should wear all the accessories to which I'm entitled. I want to be well equipped. Now, in order to get all of my accessories, I've naturally got to depend on a salesman. So far, he's done a real good job. He's got the customer to agree that he wants to buy a Pontiac. Now, before he can get down to cases on the actual deal, he must determine the total value of the sale, because the extra gross profit from accessory sales will naturally affect the allowance he'll be able to make on the customer's used car. If he can sell the car fully accessorized, it will actually be easier to close the deal and overcome the final big objection of allowance, because he'll have more margin to trade with. Also, if the question of allowance should come up at this point, he must sidestep it, as he did in answering objections, because he cannot determine the allowance until he knows to what extent the car will be accessorized. He must determine the quality of the deal. Experience has proven that the best way to sell accessories is to use a reverse approach. This simply means to show the customer a fully accessorized car and ask him which of the accessories he doesn't want. In the first place, this reassures the customer that he won't be oversold. Furthermore, as he removes the accessories one by one, he'll grow tired of taking them off, just as he'd grow tired of buying if you tried to sell them to him one at a time. The chances are that when he has taken off 5 or 6, he'll leave you with the rest of the package. Finally, as he enumerates the things he doesn't want, he's actually building up a list of accessories for you to work on. He automatically tells you which ones you can consider as sold already and which ones you'll have to sell him. Naturally, there are many ways that the reverse approach can be used. Actually, it is simplicity itself, because you don't have to begin by selling the customer something you're not sure he wants. Let's look at one typical example of our salesman going into reverse.
Now, this model is fully accessorized for protection, convenience, comfort, and appearance by Pontiac engineered accessories, just like the car you drove.
I know, but I don't want all that stuff.
Well, sir, I noticed on your old car that you had a radio, heater, and backup lights, which undoubtedly you'd like on your new one. Now, just what other accessories don't you want?
Well, now, let me see. These seat covers, I don't need them.
All right.
Take off that special mirror.
If you say so.
That turn doohickey, take that off also. I use my arm to signal. And this spotlight, you can take that off. Is this standard equipment?
No, sir, but this is the best form of grill insurance you can buy today. You know that this grill has been scientifically engineered for greater strength and safety? It actually ties into the frame of the automobile.
Okay, but I don't want these fog lights.
All right.
Well, I guess that just about does it.
Our salesman now has the list of accessories which he will have to sell. So he now concentrates on these.
Well, sir, there's one thing I wish you'd reconsider.
What's that?
The directional signal. It's one of the most useful and necessary accessories we have today. It not only represents both safety to you and others, it lets the following and oncoming traffic know just what you're about to do.
To start selling the difficult items on his list, our salesman has picked the easiest one to sell. Direction signals are obviously very valuable, especially at night when hand signals are uncertain. Direction signals are rapidly becoming recognized as a driving necessity and are actually beginning to be required by law. Besides, both the direction signal and the non-glare mirror are in the basic accessory group. So if the customer takes the direction signal, he gets the mirror for practically nothing. The salesman explains that if the customer takes the basic group of accessories, which consists of the radio, heater, backup lights, direction signal, and non-glare mirror, these items will all be installed at the factory, which will save him money. When any accessory, for example, the Pontiac engineered grill guard, is installed at the factory, the customer saves the cost of the standard part which is left off. Also, the labor cost is less because at the factory, the accessory is installed direct as the car is built. In the dealership, the dealer has to charge for the labor of removing the standard part or disassembling adjacent parts, and also for the labor of installing the accessory. Really, the customer is saving money in two ways: part cost and labor cost. In this particular case, if he gets the direction signal, he'll have all the accessories in one factory group except the non-glare mirror.
And the cost of the items that you are taking, if we were to install them, would be as much as the cost of all the items, including the mirror, if factory installed. You will actually be getting the mirror for nothing if you take the whole group.
Fine. 2 for the price of 1 sounds like a good deal.
So, by using the factory group installation plan, our salesman was able to sell 2 of the accessories the customer thought he didn't want. However, when the group plan does not apply, he must use the second basic method of accessorizing individual items, selling on the merits of the product. On the way back to the closing room, he takes the customer past a good accessory display, which is a vitally important part of every showroom. Uh-oh, he's really going to push his luck. He's stopping at the seat cover display. They were the first accessory the customer decided against.
I know you said you didn't want seat covers, but I'm sure your wife would be interested in these washable nylon fabrics. You see, they're usually one of the most important items on a woman's list.
How do you mean, washable?
Here, the salesman must sell the accessory strictly on its merits, and the customer has given him all the opportunity he needs by asking a question. He proceeds with a complete rundown on the merits of the seat covers, explaining their easy washability, which makes them practically a must if there are any small children in the family. The reason is that nylon is non-porous and closely woven, so that stains wipe right off with a damp cloth or with a quick and easy sudsing. He explains the covers are not tacked or permanently fastened, but are held by elastic and can be easily slipped off and on. He says that not only is nylon beautiful to look at, it's longer wearing, more comfortable to slide in and out on, and does not damage clothing, as some other seat covers are apt to do. He finishes with a strong pitch slanted toward the pleasure of ownership and the actual economy of these seat covers. Economy which results from the higher trade-in allowance on the car if the upholstery has been protected by top-grade seat covers.
Well, I still don't know. I'll tell you what let's do. You let me deliver the car with the seat covers on. You and your wife try it for a week or 2. And if you still don't like them, why, just bring them back. How's that?
Well, that sounds fair enough.
You can pretty near bet your bottom dollar that after they've had the covers for 2 weeks and his wife has gotten in a little sell, they won't bring them back. As a matter of fact, they didn't. This seat cover sale is just one example of the fact that the good salesman must know all the advantages and sales points of the accessories he's selling. He must make a thorough study of their true merits, not just try to hang them on the car with a lot of fast talk. Finally, when the customer asks, as he undoubtedly will, what all these accessories are going to cost him, the good salesman never quotes the prices of the accessories. He explains that they are paid for through the regular car financing plan, simply becoming a part of the overall deal and carrying the same warranty as the new car itself. And the customer will enjoy their added comfort, safety, appearance, and convenience for many years without even noticing the slight additional cost. So you see, because our salesman sold the customer everything the well-dressed Pontiac should wear, he's now ready to move into the actual close with confidence. Also, the closing will be easier. He has more leeway in his allowance trading, and he has a more acceptable deal because of the good gross. The customer actually gets a better deal on his trade-in because he bought the factory-installed group accessories, and he has increased the resale value of his Pontiac. Naturally, as time goes on, I may change my body style, my mechanical design. New accessories may be added, others may become standard equipment. But the principles of selling accessories are going on and on and on. Present fully accessorized cars to your customers, both when demonstrated and on the show floor. Use the reverse approach. Use the economy of factory group installation. Know the selling advantages of each accessory. Always stress, engineered by Pontiac, tailor-made for Pontiac. Use adequate accessory display, and never let your own personal likes and dislikes influence your salesmanship. You must stick to these basic ideas, for they are the principles that make successful salesmen, satisfied customers, prosperous dealers, and, of course, happy Pontiacs.
If you can't close your deals, you'll never be a successful Pontiac salesman. This is the payoff. This is destination dotted line. This is action. To get action, you must know when to ask for the order. You must know how to ask for the order. In general, we can consider three major methods of closing: the assumed decision, the minor point, and the choice. In the first method, you simply assume that the prospect has decided to buy. He has shown interest, perhaps answered a leading question favorably. So assume that he has decided to buy.
Well, fine. We'll sit right down and work out the details.
On the other hand, if you have guessed wrong, no harm has been done. Go right on selling, still assuming that the prospect has decided to buy, but just isn't quite ready. The second method is based on the principle that it is easier to get agreement on a minor point than it is on a major question, whether or not to make the purchase. When you have agreement on the minor question, pop the big one. Try for the order.
Let's see now. I suppose you'd like an 8?
Why, yes. I'm driving an 8 now.
Fine. If you'll just approve this, I'll arrange for immediate delivery.
The third closing method, choice, is really a useful variation of the minor point method. In effect, you force agreement by giving the customer a choice of two things.
Which color do you prefer, the blue or the green?
I like the blue.
So do I. If you just step into my office, why, we'll write it up that way.
So try for the order whenever you can, however you can. From an assumed decision, from a minor point, from a choice. Try for the order. The good salesman will naturally answer all objections satisfactorily. But he can do more than this. He can actually use an objection to close his sale. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I still don't know whether to spend the extra money or not.
Mr. Scott, don't think of it as spending. Think of it as an investment in things you really want. Because the small amount of what you call extra money involved will come back to you in the form of a higher allowance whenever you're ready to trade for a new Pontiac in the future. You like the Pontiac? You can afford the Pontiac? You want a Pontiac? You should have it.
We have already discussed the handling of objections, but there is one objection that can only be handled at closing: trade allowance and terms. Since most deals involve a trade-in, let's examine the closing techniques to use in this very important situation. Let's assume that you have been through the preliminary phases of the sale. You have put in a hard and complete sell on the Pontiac car and have purposely avoided getting tangled up in a discussion of the used car allowance. You have just returned from the demonstration ride and are seated with your prospect at a desk in a closing office.
By the way, Mr. Thompson, which color do you prefer, the black or green?
I like the one we just rode in. That green is a beautiful color, and I believe it'll stand up.
That's right, it is a good color, and we have it in stock. When would you prefer delivery?
Well, I hadn't figured on buying a new car so soon. First of all, how much for my used car? It's in first-class shape, and I put new tires on it less than a year ago. Seems to me I should get better than average for it.
That's right. You know, I get so enthusiastic about this new Pontiac, I sometimes forget customers have cars to trade. Excuse me a minute, and I'll get your appraisal.
Note that he has already had the appraisal made so that it would be ready when needed.
While I'm gone, why don't you look at this customer service policy? You'll find we go a long way to make sure our customers are completely satisfied with their new cars.
Note that the salesman has given his prospect something to study. Never let a good prospect sit alone with time to plan objections.
Mr. Thompson, was it your intention to buy this car on time or pay cash?
Well, I could pay cash, but I've got a lot of obligations coming up, and I better buy the car on time.
Fine. Had you planned on any particular amount of payments you'd like to make each month?
I don't want to be obligated for more than $100 a month.
Well, I think we can work that out all right. Now, Mr. Thompson, using your car as a down payment, you can have a car equipped exactly as the one you just drove, including your collision insurance, public liability, and property damage, as well as fire and theft for a monthly payment of only $92. Here is the place for your signature.
Note that he has not mentioned the actual amount of the allowance, but has worked out a deal with the payments as the prospect wants them, in order to avoid arguments over the trade-in. This is the ideal situation, which has been handled on a money difference basis. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen this way. For example, let's suppose that this prospect needs the full treatment. Pardon me, gentlemen. Would you mind doing that last part over again? And this time, Mr. Thompson, don't sign the order.
Oh, okay. Here's the place for your signature.
Well, I don't know. The monthly payments are all right, but how much are you actually offering for my car?
Well, Mr. Thompson, your car was in good condition, so we've allowed you the top dollar for it. I can show you here, right on the purchase order.
Oh, wait a minute. I've already been offered more money than that.
I have no doubt of that, Mr. Thompson. There are many reasons why some dealers offer more than the market price. They may be selling a less popular make of car, or one with a greater depreciation. Or perhaps they don't offer the same fine service after the sale that we do. In any event, let me show you how we arrived at our allowance for your car.
First, the salesman establishes the going price of Mr. Thompson's car. He does this by taking the advertised prices in local newspapers, or by quoting prices of similar cars on the dealership's own lot, or by calling well-known used car operators and asking the price of Mr. Thompson's make, year, and model. Next, he shows Mr. Thompson the actual appraisal slip and honestly goes over every item with him. In doing this, he builds up the total cost of reconditioning Mr. Thompson's car. He also makes the point that the dealership handles only quality merchandise, and each used car must be brought up to dealership standards. He now subtracts the cost of reconditioning the car from the established price, and so clearly demonstrates the fairness of the allowance offered. During this discussion, he sells the entire dealership as well as the excellent service the customer will receive after he has become a Pontiac owner. If the customer still cannot be closed, the good, aggressive salesman will not be discouraged. He will simply continue selling and asking for the order at every opportunity. If, after thorough coverage of the product, he feels he just can't get any further, he should then call on the sales manager or dealer to help him close. Be alert for closing signals, which will show you that you do not have to make a complete presentation. Some of the steps of the sale may have been previously accomplished, and you may not have to go through them all yourself. Remember, the time to ask for the order may come at any time during your sales interview. Here are some of the signals that indicate the prospect is getting ready to do business with you. Watch for them and try for the order. When the prospect takes it upon himself to sit back of the steering wheel. When he gets into the back seat to stretch out his legs. When he asks the opinion of his wife or any friends who may have come to the showroom with him. When he does anything with the car without your urging. For example, tries the heft of the trunk lid. When he takes off his overcoat. Whenever he sits down in the course of your sales interview. When he asks you to again point out certain features in the sales album. When he asks you any question about terms that you haven't previously covered. Learn to recognize these and similar signals and try for the order. And when you see it is time to close, be sure and have everything necessary to complete the sale at hand. Be ready for action. Have the appraisal form on the prospect's used car, a supply of order blanks, checks on every bank in your city, pens, pencils, full information on finance plans, car literature, in short, everything you might possibly need to close the deal. Never leave your prospect while you rummage around the dealership looking for order blanks. And never allow anyone else in the dealership to interrupt you when you are closing a deal. Above all, confine your closing effort to the minimum number of people. Kibitzers will often ruin your deal. Remember, you must be able to close your deals or you will never be a successful Pontiac salesman. You must get action. In order to get action, you must ask for the order early. You must ask for the order often. If your first try is not acted on, keep selling and watch for the closing signals. When you see them, act. For action is closing, and closing is your destination dotted line.
On a quiet residential street stands the attractive home of Mr. and Mrs. Young and their daughter, Sally. This is a great day in the life of the Youngs. They've bought a new Pontiac, and Roger Bayless, the salesman, has promised delivery at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Everybody is happy, but perhaps Sally is happiest of all. She runs across the street to tell her playmate, Margie Burton, the wonderful news.
Margie, we got it. Daddy bought a new Pontiac. Oh, boy, did he? They're really super. We're going to get it tomorrow morning. Why don't you ask your daddy to buy you a new Pontiac?
Yes, Margie.
Mom, Sally's dad just bought a brand new Pontiac. Do you think maybe Daddy could buy us one, too? Huh?
Maybe he would.
The next morning, Mr. and Mrs. Young and Sally arrive at the Pontiac dealers to take delivery of their new car. Bayless is satisfying himself that the Young's car has been properly serviced. He goes over the checklist. He also makes sure as to color, accessories, and other details of Mr. Young's order. A real Pontiac salesman's responsibility does not end with making a sale. He sees to it personally that the car is delivered in perfect condition, exactly as the customer wants it. Roger has seen to it that the Youngs are welcomed on their arrival, and that both he and the service manager are notified.
Roger Bayless, showroom, please. Roger Bayless, showroom, please.
Roger is satisfied that the Youngs' new car checks out in every detail, and that from bumper to bumper, it is spick and span, gleaming and spotless. Roger Bayless, top salesman that he is, wants the Youngs to feel at home at the Pontiac dealers. He introduces them to the service manager, Bill Edwards. Bill Edwards explains the service facilities of the dealership to Mr. Young. He also outlines the policy of the service department. He explains to Mr. Young the 1,000 and 2,000-mile inspections and the new car warranty. These points help to convince the Youngs that the policy of the dealership is a very important part of the purchase of their new Pontiac. Roger has all necessary papers prepared and ready for signature. No customer likes to be delayed when he comes to get his new Pontiac.
Well, that takes care of it.
Now can we get it?
You bet you can, Sally.
Oh, boy, let's go!
Mr. Young feels a very agreeable pride of ownership. Mrs. Young is delighted at the car's beauty. And how does Roger, the salesman, feel?
Well, seeing happy customers taking possession of their new Pontiac is nothing new for him, but he always gets a big kick out of it. Roger has already given the Youngs a demonstration ride, but now he gives them a final briefing, making sure that they are familiar with the location and operation of every control. Roger has built a solid foundation for future business by making a careful, conscientious delivery of the new car. He feels the satisfaction of a job well done. But this is only the beginning of the relationship between Roger Bayless and his new customers. The best source of new prospects is a former prospect who becomes a satisfied Pontiac owner, which of course is Mr. Young's present status. Roger received his lead on the Youngs from a Mr. Bradshaw, who has long had a card in the owner's file. Of course, he thanked Bradshaw at the time, but a note thanking him again, now that the Youngs have bought their car, is a matter of simple courtesy. Also, such a letter will further cement his relationship with Bradshaw, who will be needing another Pontiac before very long. Roger writes many letters to Pontiac owners. He never writes a personal letter, however, unless he has something to say. His letters always offer some service, benefit, or information. The same thing applies to follow-up by telephone. He does not call unless he has a concrete reason.
Mr. Harrison, this is Roger Bayless of Hometown Pontiac Motors. I see by the service report that you came in for the 2,000-mile inspection Monday. I just wanted to make sure that everything was satisfactory.
Roger knows that a telephone call, provided there is a concrete reason for it, keeps his name in the customer's mind. And, of course, it gives the customer a chance to talk about his new car to a sympathetic listener if he is so inclined, which this one certainly is. It is a tribute to Roger's salesmanship that customers often call him instead of the service department. To them, he is Mr. Pontiac.
Oh, hello there, Mrs. Prentice. Yes, Well, what seems to be the trouble?
Well, it just doesn't start as easily as it should, Mr. Bayless.
Suppose I ask Bill Edwards, our service manager, to call you, Mrs. Prentice. You can decide then on the most convenient time to bring your car in for adjustment. All right.
Edwards has a serviceman waiting when Mrs. Prentice drives in. Roger greets her and chats while the serviceman determines at exactly what time Mrs. Prentice's car will be ready. Roger's follow-up interest in Mrs. Prentice and her car has created confidence in the dealership and in himself. Now, as they chat, Roger asks her if she knows anyone who might be interested in a new Pontiac.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. The doctor was over the other night, and he seemed very interested in my car. Said he'd always admired the Pontiac, and, well, he'd heard very good things about it.
Roger's courteous interest in Mrs. Prentice's service problem has now led to a new prospect. The serviceman tells Mrs. Prentice that her car will be ready at 3 o'clock. And because of the dealership's firm policy, she can be sure that it will be. Since the sale, Roger has kept in touch with the Youngs by mail and telephone. But today, he decides to call back in person.
Margie, look. There's the man that sells the new Pontiac.
Roger makes good use of all Pontiac giveaway items.
Hello, Sally.
Hello.
My company asked me to give you this. All daughters of new Pontiac owners get them.
Gee, thanks.
Roger greets Mr. Young and gives him one of the dealer's Pontiac road maps. Margie forthrightly suggests to Roger that he ought to sell her papa a new Pontiac. Roger asks her what kind of a car they have now, and Margie shows it to him parked across the street. A single glance at the car tells Roger that it will make a good trade-in. He learns further that her father works for the post office. Additional questions complete the qualification of Mr. Burton as a good prospect. And so, by making a follow-up call on the Youngs, Roger has a brand new lead to work on. An effective owner follow-up program that can be expected to produce new prospects who will become owners and who, when intelligently followed up, will produce more prospects. Such a follow-up program will include a short letter of appreciation to an owner who gave him a lead on a new prospect, personal follow-up calls after delivery, direct mail personalized with the salesman's signature or business card, letters that have something to say and which offer service, information, or benefit, telephone calls to owners that offer advantages in the way of service or information. A little extra effort to make your customers feel that you have their personal interests at heart will build friendship for your dealer and for yourself. And it pays dividends. The prospect with Roger just happens to be Mrs. Prentice's family physician. If you have gone through all the steps of the course, you will have learned the attributes of good salesmanship. You will have a prospect filing system. Your approach will be worked out so that it gets results. You will know your product, how to demonstrate it, and how to answer objections. You will know the details of dealership financing, policy, and the art of closing. And you will fully appreciate the great value of careful delivery and consistent owner follow-up. For by keeping yourself in the owner's mind through continued service to him, you start a profitable cycle of new leads and new owners. Owners such as this brand new Pontiac Indian who joined the tribe because of the delivery and follow-up of Roger Bayless. Thus, delivery and follow-up form a chain reaction continually building you into a more successful Pontiac salesman. Successful and prosperous because you have followed through to destination dotted line.
Starting the game of rotation, the salesman's approach to a prospect requires study and careful preparation. The very first few seconds of direct contact set forces in motion that cannot be recalled and which will have a deciding influence upon the final outcome. Naturally, every prospect is different, and there are bound to be different ways to approach them. For example, in planning an interview with a school teacher, the thinking salesman would probably plan his approach around economy of operation and repair-free long life. If he were calling on a doctor, his approach might deal with dependability. The doctor wants his car to start every time and always get him there. On the other hand, a housewife is more likely to be interested in comfort, appearance, and keeping up with or getting a little ahead of her neighbors. The approach to a busy professional man would be brief because his time is valuable to him and he'll appreciate the salesman who conserves it and dislike the one who wastes it. In other words, the successful salesman must use his head and plan his approach to suit each particular prospect. Now, of course, in the case of walk-ins, the salesman doesn't have time or information to plan in advance, but he must begin immediately to seek information which will enable him to tailor his approach to the prospect's needs and desires. So we see each approach must be especially tailored by the intelligent salesman. However, there are certain basic fundamentals which apply to all approaches and which must be studied and mastered by all salesmen. First, he must attract the customer. Second, he must create interest quickly. Third, he must establish confidence. Fourth, he must discover needs or desires. Fifth, he must move into the actual sale. To a salesman who has never studied these fundamentals and worked out an approach, every interview is a frightening problem. Besides, once he gets up nerve enough to go in, the chances are he'll be vague, indefinite, and unsuccessful because he does not have a definite method of approach. Let's follow our typical, well-adjusted salesman, Hal Richards, and see how these fundamentals of approach work. Hal is a firm believer in approaching prospects by direct mail
and he has carefully worked out a short letter which, with gratifying frequency, wins him appointments. He encloses self-addressed cards in his letters, and here are some that have been returned by prospects. This shows that his letter is a good one. It has interested these prospects in learning about Pontiac's new features. Hal's contacts by telephone with prospects are designed to arouse their interest in giving him an appointment. He has a good voice on the telephone and a good approach that gets results, but they did not come by accident. At home, in the evenings, Hal often practices his telephone approach on a friend of his, one of the top salesmen in the business.
Hello. Hello, Pete. This is Hal. Say, what do you think of this approach? Mr. Goodrich, I'm Hal Richards from the Wilson Pontiac Company. I hope I'm not interrupting you, but I'd like to have the opportunity to show you one of our new Pontiacs and to let you drive it.
It sounds good, Hal. You better give it a try.
Hal has found another good telephone approach. He's been courteous, he has stated his name and business, and he has asked for a definite appointment. Today, Hal is going to make his first direct contact with a good prospect. He knows that an important part of the impression he's going to make will be due to his appearance. Its effect, good or bad, will be irretrievably planted in the prospect's mind in a matter of seconds. Grace, his wife, gives him a final inspection.
Well, how do I look?
Just wonderful. Oh, honey, you never remember this handkerchief. There.
Bye now. I'll see you at 7, huh?
All right, dear.
He's never even seen this prospect before, but he's taken the trouble to find out a few things about him. Mr. Rawl is a real estate agent. He is at present driving a 2-year-old car, and Hal has its license number. Mr. Rawl has evidently been showing real estate, not, we should guess, with too much success. Hal parks, placing his car in strategic position. A nice study in contrast. It will prove useful later. Hal has diligently searched for every scrap of information which will be helpful to him to decide quickly whether or not Mr. Rawl is a good prospect. Such qualification is a vital part of his selling because it keeps him from spending time uselessly.
Mr. Rawl, my name is Hal Richards. I'm with the Wilson Pontiac Company.
Oh, yes. Sit down.
You?
Hal's initial impression on Mr. Rawl has been good. His looks, his friendly expression, the confident quality of his voice, all these things have, in 20 seconds, given Mr. Rawl the impression of a likable and competent young man.
I imagine you do a lot of driving in your business.
Yes, I do. About 25,000 miles a year.
That's about what I drive. I know many Pontiac owners who drive even more than that.
Hal knows that a real estate man drives a lot, so he uses this to quickly arouse interest. He cites by name actual customers who have the kind of impressive, trouble-free mileage records for which Pontiac is famous. Hal begins to establish confidence because he's able to radiate sincerity when he talks about Pontiac. Again, there's a reason for this. He's spent many hours studying Pontiac. And how does Hal's knowledge of Pontiac and his belief in Pontiac affect his sales approach to Mr. Rawl? Very favorably. Mr. Rawl simply has to have a feeling of confidence toward Hal, because Hal believes in what he's saying. He speaks with the conviction of personal knowledge. He is not using a canned sales talk. Sure, Hal wants to make a good approach, but not only for what he'll get out of it. He wants to sell Mr. Rawl a Pontiac because he himself believes it's the best possible buy for Mr. Rawl. Mr. Rawl compares the looks of his car with that of the new Pontiac. Hal must now find out what Mr. Rawl needs and desires most in a new car. Perhaps Mr. Rawl will tell him.
The visibility looks pretty good.
Well, this could mean that Mr. Rawl's chief desire in a car is safety, and that he's a nervous driver who wants to be able to see in all directions. But somehow, Hal doesn't think this is why Mr. Rawl spoke of the visibility.
How would you like to drive the most beautiful thing on wheels?
You can drive around a little if you like. I'll sit in the back.
Notice how roomy and comfortable it is?
Hal hasn't yet found out what Mr. Rawls' chief desire in an automobile is, and this is the most important thing for him to determine. Every prospect has his own interests, and the salesman must find out what they are and appeal to them. He must discover as quickly as possible what each prospect wants in a car, and then sell those features. The Rawls subdivision. Hal's got it now. He knows what appeals most about the car to Mr. Rawls. Why he mentioned visibility.
Wonderful visibility from a Pontiac, all right. You and your prospective customers can really see the country from this car. See it in comfort, too.
Yes, I've been thinking that.
Of course, Mr. Rawls sells scenery. He's putting himself in the place of his clients. That's why he chose the back seat. He wants to check the view and to be sure that his clients will be comfortable.
Beautiful subdivision, don't you think?
Hal agrees sincerely, and sensing that the time is right, he leaves the approach and moves into the actual sale. He suggests that Mr. Rawls might like to drive, and on the return trip, he gets down to cases quickly with excellent results. And this pleasant turn of events came about because Hal made a good impression during the first few seconds after entering Rawls' office. His looks, the tone of his voice, his confident manner and air of sincerity all added up. And they added up because of Hal's studious care in building his approach, his experiments with greetings and openings, trying them out on people who know, his thorough knowledge of the Pontiac car, his ability to create interest quickly, his honest conviction that Pontiac is a great car and that his prospect ought to buy it, and the fact that he discovered his prospect's special interest and tailored his approach to that interest.
Hi, honey.
Hi.
Well, you're looking mighty pleased with yourself.
Uh-huh.
That handkerchief. Oh, darling, you're wonderful.
How does it go today, he asks. How does it go every day? Plenty of walk-ins, but no buyers. If this keeps up, I'm going back to the mines.
Here's your check, Ed.
Oh, thanks.
And yours, Mr. Carpenter?
Oh, thank you, Mary. How the devil is this gonna last? Just wait till Mary sees this.
Things can't be that bad, Ed.
You're a big help. I'd be plenty happy if I were making your kind of dough.
Well, I think you could be.
I wish I knew how. It isn't that I haven't tried, Jim. I just don't seem to get results. Well, take last week, for example, and again this week. I haven't made enough to feed the birds. And I know it isn't my job, because you've been knocking them off right and left.
Take it easy. I'm not that good.
That's the way things look from here.
I know it looks like luck, the breaks of the game. But think a minute. Didn't we both start here at about the same time?
Yeah.
You came in off the road, and I had just gotten out of the Army, so we both started from scratch. You even had the edge, because road selling is the toughest kind there is.
A lot of good it's done.
You know, you remind me of a guy with $1 million in the middle of the Sahara.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, he's got money to spend, and there's nothing to buy. You're a good salesman with no one to sell to. I've seen you walk up to guys out there on the floor, size them up, and start talking to them like you'd known them all their lives. Why, you operate like you wrote that book on how to make friends and influence people.
I do.
Sure you do, but there's only one catch. You got nobody to influence.
You said it.
Where's your prospect file?
Well, here's what I've been working on.
Ed, let me show you the system I use. Maybe it'll give you some ideas.
Well, I suppose you're going to tell me that if I put all my prospects on neat little cards and a neat little box, that I'm going to start selling cars, huh?
No, it isn't the file that makes the difference. It's the way you use it.
All right, so?
Well, for instance, you mentioned going back to the mines. Learning to dig makes for a more successful salesman, because that's the way we find prospects. We dig them up. They don't fall in our lap. What do you suppose would happen at an assembly plant if the man didn't keep up the stock that feeds the line?
Well, they'd stop making cars.
Sure they would. And in a way, it's the same story with us, Ed. We have to keep up a reserve stock of potential customers, each one in various stages of preparation. And that takes digging.
Okay. But when am I going to do my actual selling?
Well, locating prospects is selling. You just have to budget your time so that you can make the best use of it. Our automobile market is big, and to cover it efficiently, you have to plan. For instance, take a small section of this area. For every 100 people in the area, only about 3 will buy new cars in an average year. The trouble is, these 3 people probably won't look or act any different from the others. You have to assume that every person you talk to is a potential prospect, or the source of a prospect. When it comes right down to it, there are really only 2 types of prospects. First, there's the walk-in. Now, floor play is okay, and we all like to pick off sales that walk in the door. But you know that walk-ins are very often just plain shoppers. You can't very well live on this source alone. You've got to go out and find the other kind of prospect. And when you do, brother, you've struck it rich. Because you've got a better chance of keeping the whole deal to yourself. One of the best prospect sources is the Pontiac owner's registration list. Pontiac owners are so sold on their cars that most of them continue to buy Pontiacs. And in addition to being live prospects themselves, they can give you other prospects. The automobile business is the only business where a salesman can get the names of all the owners of products that compete with his. I look through this list regularly, especially when the cars are 2 or 3 years old. The service department is a good place to find new car prospects, too. But I don't depend entirely on service salesmen and mechanics for leads. I go out there and talk to customers myself. Sometimes a person who thinks he can only buy a used car can really afford a new one, especially when he learns about our new car financing plan. The best way to get help in finding prospects is to set up a web of communication with a number of contact points, with spotters who will find prospects for you and save you time.
Bird dogs. I thought you were leading into that.
Certainly bird dogs. They're a recognized, successful part of the business. The idea is easy to use with a regular system like the Pontiac Prospect Bonus Plan. And I always make it a point to be sure and get the best bird dogs I can. It's a lot of competition for good ones. So when you get good ones, keep them happy. I never miss or stall in the payoff, and I always pay a good, fair fee. For other prospect sources, I belong to business clubs, and I keep active in social and civic organizations. It's just good salesmanship to meet the key people, the men that other people imitate and take advice from. So I'll have the community leaders on my side working for me. For personal promotion, no matter where I go, I make sure everybody knows I sell Pontiac cars. I don't bore them with it, but it does take judgment and tact.
For instance, I make full use of General Motors' big library of movies. I arrange for showings to Rotary clubs, PTA meetings, in fact, any public gathering. Personal promotion, the everyday business of making yourself known to more and more people, is invaluable. Do you make use of our giveaway items, Ed?
Well,
I've had unusually good success with this Pontiac road map. Owners and prospects are really glad to get it. Here's another thing. I try to make contacts with people in finance companies and banks to find out when customers' car contracts are just about paid up. Insurance people will help too. I've located many a pre-sold prospect by making constant calls on the employees of Pontiac fleet owners. In driver training courses, I get tips from teachers and from the kids themselves. I watch the local events like weddings, property sales, probate court news about wills and inheritances. These and other items will often give you worthwhile leads. And I get prospects by displaying a car at factories when shifts change or at lunchtime. And of course at auto shows and fairs. A few days after a customer of mine has taken delivery on a new Pontiac, I make it a point to call back and see if he's satisfied with his car. Hand him the road map and ask him about his neighbors. Remember that sale I closed Monday?
Oh, yeah, the guy who bought the blue Catalina.
Well, I got that deal as a result of a call back.
When I think of the times, I've never given a closed sale a second thought.
Well, it's worth thinking about, Ed. And for good measure, I leave a full-line folder at each house in the neighborhood. Then, later, I follow up the contact with the neighbors by direct mail. I have ways of keeping posted on owners of cars that have been in minor accidents. I get tips from the police and from firemen and other civil servants. And I get the names of a lot of good prospects from tow truck operators. Then there's the good old technique of finding a likely-looking trade-in on the street or in a parking lot and leaving a carefully worded selling note, perhaps with a definite dollars and cents offer for the car. Now, cars are not sold on the telephone, but it can be used to locate prospects. I find out everything I can about a person before I call, and I avoid asking any questions that might be answered with a no. And when I get one of those no customers, one I just can't seem to close, I trade with another salesman. And you'd be surprised at the change in the customer's attitude. As a matter of fact, I've got a tough farmer right now that I can't sell. How about a trade, Ed?
Okay, it's a deal.
Good.
Here's your check, Ed.
Oh, thanks, Mary.
Hello, Mr. Allen. Jack Harris. How are you? Fine, thank you. Mr. Allen, I'd like you to see the new 53 Pontiac. It's really a beautiful car, and I thought you might enjoy getting a good look at it. Sure, your 52 is a swell car, but I know you always like to drive the new model, and whether you're ready for a trade-in or not, I'd like you to see this one. Oh, no, it's a lot different, inside and out. That's okay. Make it at night. How about this evening? Anytime. Matter of fact, they're going to be working here tonight, putting in some new display fixtures. I'll be here all evening. Fine. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Mr. Allen. Goodbye.
Mr. Harris, this entrance is going to be closed for a while. We're getting ready to put up those lights. When you come back, would you mind using the side door?
Sure, that's okay. You go right ahead. Won't bother us a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Say, that is a beauty. You have made a lot of changes this year.
From bumper to bumper, actually more than 90 new features. And these are not just changes. That's a brand new car. Not only better looking, but a better performer.
Still sold on your car, huh?
Oh, I love it. Why shouldn't I? That's always been a sweetheart of a car. And it gets better looking every year.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harris, but we're going to have to kill the lights in here for the next few minutes. I plugged this spot in the window circuit for you. That'll give you some light.
That's all right. As a matter of fact, there's quite a list of things I want to spotlight for Mr. Allen. Can't think of a better way to do it.
Okay, Joe, kill him.
All right, Mr. Allen, let's start the features story. The Pontiac engineers and designers really went to work on this one, starting right there in front. The new grille design for 1953. If you recall the grille on your 52, you'll see there's been quite a change. Not just new, but a cleaner, more massive design. Makes you feel just a little prouder that you're driving a Pontiac. You know what I mean?
I certainly do.
The same is true with our famous Silver Streak. This year, it's smarter, with more color, but still distinctively Pontiac. Now, let's get up to something that's more than just better looking. Here's the windshield for 1953. Just sit behind the wheel for a minute. No center strip. One single expanse of glass. See what a feeling of unobstructed view you get, even here in the dark. It cleans easier, too. So you see more, and you see it better. While you're in the car, compare the 1952 instrument panel with this one that'll be serving you in 1953.
That's certainly a fine arrangement.
It surely is. All instruments here in a single semicircle. Look at the speedometer detail. You get the whole story at a glance. Battery, gas, oil, water. On one horizontal line. Main light switch here at the extreme left. Easy to locate in the dark. Then, windshield wiper. If you have the windshield washer, the push button is right here in the center of it. A new location for the heater and fan controls. And sliding them horizontally makes the operation much smoother than the old rotating type. Here's a real feature. You turn on the ignition and operate the starter in a single one-hand operation. And notice the new location of the ashtray. It's convenient to driver and passenger both. Take a look at the new steering column jacket. All working parts are concealed. Not only a smoother appearance, but easier action. You get the same design in the synchromesh. And this year, Pontiac offers power steering as optional equipment. See how easily the wheel turns, even when the car is standing still. Also, the front ventipane is crank operated. Simplifies window operation for you. You'll like that. Just another matter of convenience that Pontiac likes to give you. A new door trim design, too. Really handsome, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is.
Now then, Mr. Allen, we've made some pretty important changes in the rear seat that I'd like to show you. Well, this year, there's 2 1/4 more inches of knee room back here, and an inch deeper seat cushion. That's right, you can really stretch out in this one. All around, there's more comfort, more roominess in this back seat for you, or for whoever you'll have sitting back here. Incidentally, you get an extra inch of leg room in the front seat that you'll appreciate. A new position for the accelerator pedal does it. Now let's get on to some more features. There's another convenience for you in this year's gas tank. It holds 20 gallons. That's 2.5 gallons more than last year. With the fine gasoline mileage you get with dual range, that means a lot fewer gas stops for you. That's especially important on a long journey, where stations are far apart.
That's a new fender line, too.
Smart, isn't it? Sleek and modern, and blends beautifully with the rest of the design. There's a new gravel guard and fender shield. Starts in front of the wheel, then across, and curves around to complete the rear fender styling. Here's something else you'll like. If you recall the trunk opening in your present car, you'll appreciate the new, larger opening in 53. 4 inches lower. Makes it an easy lift for that heavy luggage. You remember how vision was improved in the 1952 rear window over earlier models?
Yes.
Cut down that blind corner a lot, didn't it?
Oh, it certainly did.
But now we've cut out that blind spot altogether. A full wraparound rear window. In last year's car, the angle of vision through your mirror is 29 degrees. And here's how the road behind looks to you. This year's window spreads the angle to 39 degrees. Now look at that road. Safer driving, less strain. Gives you a feeling of spaciousness. It's lighter, brighter, more comfortable.
Yes, I like that. That's a big improvement.
There's a whole lot more, Mr. Allen, but right now I'd like to tell you about a few things that I know are very important to you. One is another Pontiac First, an easy pull handbrake. This is one your wife will like. It takes a fairly strong pull to operate the 52 brake, as it does on most cars. And when you park on those hills out your way, that brake gets a real workout. This year, it needs less effort, less length of pull. That intermediate lever does the trick. And the brake is even more positive in action, because it takes hold quicker. And now, Mr. Allen, for the first time, something's being done about the curves, too. You know when your car rounds a curve the way the wheels tilt? Well, that's a problem that engineers have grappled with for years. And here's the first practical approach to a real solution. It's a highly technical problem, but here's what normally happens to your wheels going around a curve. As the car leans out, the wheels tilt with it, away from the curve. And the car tends to go in the direction of the tilt. So you have to steer hard against that tendency in order to make the curve. Well, we've made steering a lot easier with a Pontiac Curve Control front suspension for 53. The new suspension doesn't look so much different, but Pontiac engineers worked out new lengths and pivot point locations so that the wheels tend to hold straighter on the curves. It's not only easier to steer, it cuts down on tire wear and squeal. Gives you a much smoother ride. Gives even more meaning to the fact that dollar for dollar you can't beat a Pontiac. And in 1953, you get a 2-inch longer wheelbase, 2-inch longer body, more leg room, more hip room, more half room. Actually, more car. And all of that car, a Pontiac.
The lights are all set now, Mr. Harris. Just hit that switch over there.
Fine. You couldn't have timed it better. And now, when you see that car, Mr. Allen, you're really going to appreciate it. You know the feature story. Here's the front page headline. The American Beauty, Pontiac, 1953.
You're twice right, Mr. Harris. The 1953 Pontiacs are front page headlines and American beauties. Let's show Mr. Allen some of the other models. The Custom Catalina comes in exclusive color combinations of laurel green and Milano ivory. Features an unobstructed rear glass and increased visibility on sides due to new window outline. A new and rich interior through the use of more light leather and distinctive chrome molding. A new position of interior lights provides better lighting and adds a fine touch of style. You'll find this same feature in the Deluxe Catalina. Also the same hand-buffed leather along with a waffle pattern nylon cloth that gives a new level of luxury. This model is available in all the new solid and two-tone colors except Laurel Green, Milano Ivory, and Santa Fe Red, which are reserved for the custom Catalina and convertible. The convertible may be had in all the sparkling new colors except Laurel Green. Interiors in 5 colors of leather and 4 combinations of leather and nylon cloth. On all convertibles and other two-door models, the front seats tilt forward and center. This gives rear seat passengers about 3.5 inches more room to get in and out of the car. The special models will be quickly recognized by the rubber gravel guard and the repositioning of the word Pontiac on the front fenders. Upholstery on all special models is both beautiful and durable. As a new feature for 1953 station wagons, folding rear seats are available on both deluxe and special models. This arrangement offers a dual-purpose rear compartment for increased serviceability and carrying space. When seats are folded down, a flat, level floor is formed. Floor surfaces are covered with durable ribbed linoleum. On both deluxe and special station wagons, interior roof bows have been concealed, and new tail lamps, rear fenders, and license plate location add new lines of distinction. The special station wagons have been brightened with new two-tone interiors. Horsepower rating on our thrifty 6-cylinder engine has been increased from 100 to 115 in the standard compression ratio and to 118 horsepower in the high compression ratio. So you can see that whether it's the 4-door, the 2-door, the Catalinas, the station wagons, or the smart new convertibles, this year, as always, these beautiful new automobiles are positive proof that dollar for dollar, you can't beat a Pontiac.
The story you are about to see and hear concerns a problem that regularly faces 2 important people, Mr. Car Buyer and Mrs. Car Buyer. The problem is which new car to buy. Mr. Car Buyer thinks this is the car he wants. Mrs. Car Buyer is not so sure. Maybe this one has more appeal to her. What exactly are they looking for? Actually, car buyers want 6 things in the car they buy. They want fine appearance, sleek, new, and modern. They want good economy, economy of purchase price, operating cost, and trade-in value. They also want durability, long life in the car they buy. And they want safety in its highest degree for themselves and others on the road. They also want comfort for driver and passengers in the car they decide to buy. And they want performance, proven ability in all traffic conditions. Today, there is one car which answers best all of these most important things every car buyer wants. Solid value, you can't beat a Pontiac. Let's see some of the reasons for this famous fact. In appearance, the first thing buyers look for in new cars. The overall beauty of the 1953 Silver Streak Pontiac speaks eloquently for itself, with luxury accents of long, flowing, streamlined design that makes it distinctively recognized as a Pontiac. Its beauty says emphatically, here is quality, here is luxury, here is prestige. For example, the graceful, modern new grille,
And flowing up from it, Pontiac's dramatic new silver streak styling and the one-piece panoramic windshield, which adds its own touch of modern style and beauty. From any view, the styling details of the 1953 Pontiac emphasize its luxurious, big car beauty. This distinctive rear fender design, the one-piece panoramic rear window, providing safer vision as well as style. And Pontiac's beauty is not just skin deep. For the interior furnishings of this outstanding car present the rich decor of real luxury. A blend of glowing chrome and combinations of beaded nylon and broadcloth offered in colors that harmonize beautifully with the exterior of the car. Another fine example of Pontiac's interior beauty is the new instrument panel, restyled for richer appearance and greater convenience. Yes, look inside or look outside. Pontiac's beauty of appearance is there in magnificent impression and luxurious detail, offered in 18 combinations of glowing exterior color and harmonizing interior trim. Now, let's see the second thing people want most in a new car. They want good economy. In any automobile, true economy is based on original cost, operating costs, and trade-in value. Let's first consider original cost and trade-in value. Here you see the percent of difference of purchase price between Pontiac and the average of the three lowest priced cars. It's surprising to most people that Pontiac, with so much greater quality, costs so little more than the lowest priced cars. But watch how even that small difference shrinks when we consider the important factor of trade-in value. Pontiac's low original cost, plus its traditionally high trade-in value, offers real economy of automobile investment. And what about economy of operation? Here's where economy is made or lost. The powertrain that produces and delivers the force that drives the car. To produce the power, the famous Pontiac high compression engine, the most highly perfected power plant in the automotive industry. It has fewer moving parts and wearing surfaces, less wear, less expense. This engine produces high balanced horsepower, which when combined with the renowned dual-range hydromatic transmission gives you the smoothest power on the road. Pontiac's dual-range transmission also provides two separate power ranges, supplying the most economical performance for city or country driving, like having two specialized engines in one car. The same transmission offered in the highest priced cars. And here's the final power link, the Pontiac Economizer rear axle. It cuts engine work as much as 30% in the cruising range. Again, less wear, less oil, less gas, greater economy. And along with economy comes the question of durability. The best proof anyone can offer of Pontiac's durability comes from the people who own and drive Pontiac cars, who say 130,000 miles, 10 years driving, dependable, starts immediately in cold weather, cool performance in desert driving. Proof from thousands and thousands of satisfied owners that Pontiac has outstanding durability, that Pontiac is built first to last. And another important buying factor is safety. Let's look at some of the Pontiac safety features that help make Pontiac the safest car on the road. First, an important part of Pontiac's safety story is the roadability you get from the 122-inch wheelbase. Only a few of the highest priced cars have a comparable wheelbase. And Pontiac is built safely from the ground up, with this bridge-type frame with strong X-member bracing. And another new safety contribution in the 1953 Pontiac is this new curve control front-end suspension. This improvement reduces front wheel tilt on curves and makes driving on turns safer and easier. It also reduces tire squeal and tire wear. You drive safer in Pontiac, and you ride safer in Pontiac with protection of its Unisteel body by Fisher. Solid steel turret top above you, solid steel floor below you, steel all around you. Yes, in Pontiac you get big car safety plus big car comfort with longer, softer springs and the most advanced design shock absorbers. But that's not all. Much of Pontiac's superior comfort is in the better design and quality construction of seats and cushions. Seats are wider, cushions are deeper. There's big car room for the driver and big car room for the passengers. There's more knee room, more hip room, more hat room in a Pontiac than in many higher-priced cars. But the greatest proof of Pontiac's solid value is Pontiac performance. Drive it yourself and compare it with any car on the road, even those costing thousands of dollars more. You'll feel the eagerness of Pontiac's powerful and efficient engine to get up and go. No car outperforms Pontiac in country driving, where you cruise along with the engine loafing. And no car outperforms Pontiac in city traffic, either at the stoplight or moving effortlessly through crowded streets. And in Pontiac performance, you'll discover an ease of handling and steering unsurpassed in any car, regardless of price. Yes, your own experience of a Pontiac demonstration proves that for economy, for durability, for safety, comfort, performance, for luxurious beauty, and for all the things that people want for solid value. Dollar for dollar, you can't beat a Pontiac.
There's a mighty fine place to buy a used car. Pontiac new car dealer, too. What a fine selection to pick from. Plenty of General Motors cars there. Almost anyone could find the car he wanted here. And another thing, they believe in being friendly. Treat you polite-like. Honest, too. I know. I got a good deal here on a car a while back. But if you're wondering who I am, perhaps I'd better explain. You might say I'm the duly elected representative of the Used Car Purchasers of America Unlimited. That's strictly unofficial, of course. And some of these figures and things, they tell you what most used car purchasers want. But you know, any used car purchaser will tell you that, if you ask him. Now, I'm no specialist when it comes to selling used cars. But I figure I am a specialist when it comes to spending my own dough for one. So let me tell you what happened to me when I bought a used car from this Pontiac dealer. To begin with, I liked the looks of the place. Wasn't hard to find either. And right here, I started looking for little things which might tip me off one way or another about the place.
like the prices being big enough to read. Actually, most people don't know too much about cars. They need someone to advise them. The same with me. Even more so when I think how much you have to accept on faith. Well, the first thing that impressed me was the way that salesman made me feel at home. A friendly handshake and a smile made me feel good right away. This salesman sort of took it easy, talked about a lot of things. Wasn't long before we were talking about my youngsters. No push, no shove, no rush to high pressure me into a quick deal. And that went over big with me. But all the time, I noticed we were getting around to the kind of a car that would suit me best. And was that salesman a detective on that one? How many in the family? What color do you prefer? What make? What model? Will you use it for long trips in summer? Will you drive it to work in the winter? Brother, could that salesman ask questions? In a nice way, though. I guess that's what you people call qualifying the prospect. And by this time, he must have sized up my likes and dislikes pretty completely. But with so many good-looking used cars, I had a notion to wander around a bit. But that was quickly settled, for here were two cars that just about filled the bill as far as I was concerned. I must have shown some interest one way or another without knowing it, because in no time, he put his finger on the car that hit me as the one I'd like, if the deal was right. Now, I like a place where they tell you the facts about a used car. That's what this salesman does. He shows me the engine. I can see it's clean. Maybe just a little thing, but it adds up. The upholstery and the whole inside were spick and span. Another little thing. And that clean luggage compartment made a big hit with me, too. Well, the way that salesman went over this car, you'd have thought I was buying a new one. He told me all about the standard features. You know, the ones the factory advertises on new cars, and mentioned such things as wheelbase, type of engine and power, overall length and series number. Yep. It's a funny thing, but you never know which one of those little odd bits of information will interest a used car purchaser. Then this salesman calls attention to the overall fine condition of the car, the finish, the tires. And shaking that front wheel told me plenty. And how careful the previous owner had been with the car. Then I let go with the big question. What about reconditioning? Well, sir, he comes right back with a sincere statement about what reconditioning had been done. And the dealer's warranty policy on used cars. A Pontiac goodwill guarantee, he calls it. More than that, he shows me where the reconditioning was done. I can see for myself. And did that salesman get my feet into this car, but fast. Not any faster than I wanted, though, because by this time, I was as enthusiastic as he was. Well, almost. For nothing had been said about the deal up to now. But anyway, I still had the feeling he was looking out for my interest, helping me find the right car for me. Another thing, he kept the demonstration short, but gave me enough time to check the performance of the car and satisfy myself that it was all he said it was. And at the same time, I knew they were looking my car over pretty carefully, too. Well, that ride certainly made me dissatisfied with the car I had. But believe me, I didn't want to let the salesman know it. I figured now was the time for me to work for a good deal. I'd shopped around some and thought I knew what I ought to pay and what I ought to get for my car, too. I had a realistic price in mind, one I figured I could pay, and how much I figured I could afford to spend. But that I kept to myself. Well, he keeps price out of it, too. And he knows his business all right. Figuring out the deal, I mean. He just takes it for granted that used car purchasers mostly buy on time. And he sets about to figure out how cheaply I can buy the car. I kept my eyes on every move that pencil made. But when he finished and handed me the figures, the deal was on the basis of my car plus so much. Sure, I objected. Don't forget, I'm the specialist when it comes to spending my own dough. But then this salesman really sharpened the pencil and got down to bedrock. He explains how it is possible for me to buy this car, shows me how small monthly payments can handle it, convinces me that I can get all this automobile for so little money. When he got through, I could understand that the deal was fair all the way. Yes, sir. That salesman sure sized up what I needed and wanted in a car, all right. Maybe I'd have saved some time if I'd laid all my cards on the table in the beginning. Most people don't. You've got to dig it out of them. Painlessly, I mean. Anyway, I'm happy with the buy and understand just what these people mean by a goodwill guarantee. Of course, you have to take human nature into consideration every time. As for us, we figure we're just as sharp a trader as the next one. Say, come to think of it, you know, I bought more automobile than I thought I could buy. Look who's talking. But then, who else would you want to have talking about the way you do business?
What do you see?
Something new.
Something finer. It's perfect.
Down to the smallest detail.
I see a masterpiece.
I see the biggest story of the year.
I see a brilliant new star.
And so do I.
Yes, any way you look at it. It's new, finer, perfect. A masterpiece. Yes, the biggest story, the brightest star. The new, the big, the beautiful Pontiac for 1954. Always the leader in value, Pontiac now sets new standards of value for 1954. And as always, Pontiac steps out ahead in its new models to show the world how much automobile can be bought for the money. Star of the line is Pontiac's dramatically new series of big cars. The Star Chiefs, shown here in the custom Catalina. Star Chief is the biggest, the most captivating, the most dynamic automobile yet built by Pontiac. The Star Chief is almost 214 inches in length, 11 inches longer, with new styling, new comfort, new luxury details. Star Chief is powered by Pontiac's famous 8-cylinder engine, excitingly improved for even more horsepower. Pontiac's improved dual-range hydromatic transmission is again optional for all series. And for 1954, power steering has been further refined in smooth operation and steering response. And now, in keeping with its tradition of offering all that a fine car can offer, Pontiac offers the option of power braking, perfected braking that has proved worth waiting for. For 1954, a fitting environment for all this luxury is provided by Pontiac's Comfort Control Seat, completely adjustable to give any person more comfort and more safety at the controls. Electric window lifts can be your choice for 1954's final touch of luxury. Here indeed is the car that says, so everyone can hear, look at Pontiac. Look at Pontiac through the eyes of an automobile engineer to see how it is almost as fine as the finest, almost as low-priced as the lowest. An engineer, beginning with a basic car consisting of the simplest engine, chassis, and body, could chart all the features, all the performance, all the luxuries that could possibly be built into the most expensive cars. Up to a point, as each improvement is added, the cost rises slightly. Beyond this point, each addition begins to cost more and more. Engineers say Pontiac, since its beginning, has been built for maximum value. The chart shows that even cars selling for twice as much as Pontiac offer comparatively little more in size, performance, or luxury. Likewise, though the values offered by other cars may be considerably less, Pontiac costs but little more than the lowest. Look at Pontiac through the eyes of people you meet to get a true appreciation of its distinctive beauty. The styling that belongs only to Pontiac is immediately apparent. Look at Pontiac through the eyes of the people you pass to see how its new three-dimensional treatment of molding and trim accents the impression of tremendous length. Look at Pontiac through the eyes of people who will follow you to see the overall new styling unity of the car. In the deluxe models of Pontiac's famed Chieftain series, the same beauty of design has been incorporated. Pontiac's Chieftain special models differ from the custom and deluxe models in their simplification of detail. Look at Pontiac through the eyes of your friends. You'll get a new appreciation of Pontiac's prestige value, its styling distinction, and its exquisite taste. You'll get an impression of richness unsurpassed in the most expensive cars. Every detail is in keeping with the finest traditions of craftsmanship and artistry. Add them all together, and you'll see that Pontiac is even more beautiful than the sum total of its parts. You know Pontiac is beautiful, but look at Pontiac through the eyes of a homemaker to see how it gives you comfort value equal to the finest. Here is vibrationless quiet, the controlled temperature and ventilation of modern air-conditioned living. Here is living room comfort on wheels, the soft padded contours of lavishly upholstered furniture. Here is the comfort of home. The extra long wheelbase, combined with new spring design, gives you the riding comfort that only a big car can provide. You know that Pontiac is beautiful and comfortable. To appreciate its superlative safety features, look at Pontiac through the eyes of a real motor safety expert. He knows that Pontiac is the car that offers a full measure of safety. Pontiac's instant response to the accelerator gives you command of the situation, keeps you out of trouble when passing. With full vision windshield, you can see where you're going, and with panoramic rear window, you can see what's behind you. Yet with Pontiac's body by Fisher, welded unisteel construction, you and your family are enclosed in a one-piece steel shell of safety. Here, with low center of gravity and improved springing, is maximum stability for any driving condition. Here is smooth, easy, positive steering on curves or straightaways and on roads rough or smooth. Braking is smooth, dependable. Yes, Pontiac is beautiful, comfortable, and safe. And to understand Pontiac's durability, look at the car that is built to last through the eyes of a man who's been driving the same Pontiac for 20 years. Today, 1 out of every 14 Pontiacs built in 1934 is still in everyday use. Proof of Pontiac's lasting value. Look through the eyes of your Pontiac service mechanic. He knows that Pontiac has been engineered and manufactured to give lasting satisfaction. Through the eyes of your service station operator, you can learn more about its economy of operation. Pontiac's high compression engine is the most highly perfected power plant in the automotive industry. Easy to maintain, economical on gas and oil. Pontiac's traditional economy is a matter of dollars and cents. Look at it through the eyes of your banker. He will compare Pontiac's lower purchase cost and higher trade-in value and tell you that in 1954, with so many new features found only on a few more expensive cars, there is no better investment for your automobile dollar. Dollar for dollar, you can't beat a Pontiac. You know that Pontiac is beautiful, comfortable, and safe. You know that Pontiac is built to last and to give you the most for your money in terms of economy. But what about performance for 1954? How would you like to look at performance through the eyes of a jet test pilot? Listen.
Scott to field control, altitude 35,000, speed 650, tailpipe temperature 895, RPM 100%. I am pushing over into a dive. Response to controls excellent. Over.
Well, there's a first-hand report on how it feels to fly one of Uncle Sam's new jet aircraft. The test pilot is a flying engineer with every sense delicately tuned to the response and performance of precision machinery. Look at Pontiac performance through his eyes. At the world-famed General Motors Proving Ground, he will put Pontiac through its flashing paces under the most rigorous scientific conditions. As a test pilot who knows the value of advanced planning, he'll check the facilities before he begins. The speed loop and straightaways where top speeds, acceleration, and deceleration are tested. The Belgian block road, gravel and sand roads, and hills of every degree of steepness. He knows that just as his airplane is ground tested before he is asked to fly it, so too has Pontiac undergone endless hours of torture tests before it is released to the public. A man whose life depends on fine engine performance recognizes the outstanding leadership of Pontiac's high-compression 8-cylinder engine with the new top performance of 127 horsepower. Because this added power has been accomplished by improvements in carburetor and manifold design with improved ignition, Pontiac has maintained its outstanding economy. He appreciates the effortless ease of dual-range hydromatic pioneered by Pontiac. He knows its tremendous advantages in outstanding fuel economy, longer engine life, better engine braking, smoother driving, and quieter operation. Pontiac's power steering has proved itself in hundreds of thousands of miles of effort-saving driving. Improved for 1954, it is offered as an optional feature. With this special effort measuring wheel, our test pilot first checks the amount of effort to turn the wheels when the engine is stopped. The scale reads 18 pounds. Then, starting the engine with Pontiac's easy key start switch, he rechecks the effort needed to turn the wheels with the car stationary. Now the scale shows only about 6 pounds, 1/3 the effort every time you turn the wheel. Of course, you don't have to be a test pilot to appreciate velvety smooth, yet steel trap positive braking action. The brakes are easier to reach, easier to operate, reducing fatigue and shortening the time needed to apply the brakes and stop. Just as jet aircraft have adjustable seats to give the pilot full mastery of his flight controls, so Pontiac's comfort control seat
lets you take full advantage of wide vision, dual range hydromatic, power steering, and power braking. The seat can be moved from front to rear, can be raised or lowered or tilted to give a total of 360 different possible positions for added comfort, better vision, and reduced driving fatigue. And now, for an expert's view on Pontiac's dynamic new performance for 1954. Everything ready? Here we go.
Scott to operations.
Testing. How do you read me?
Loud and clear. Proceed with acceleration test.
Using traffic range on dual hydromatic. Begin countdown for start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First flag, second flag, third flag, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Acceleration excellent. What was your timing?
We timed you at 1-7.
Roger. I'll swing around and come back the other way for the next run.
The performance of Pontiac's 8-cylinder engine with dual-range hydromatic is a combination that amazes even a pilot accustomed to jet-assisted takeoffs. The kind of acceleration that helps you get through tangled traffic with ease.
I will maintain speed with my foot on the accelerator until I hear the gun. To avoid sliding the tires, I will not, repeat, not apply maximum pedal force. No tendency to swerve noted, no jerking or swaying. All right, boys, check that. According to my estimate, the power brake reduces pedal pressure by about 50%.
Yes, Pontiac's power brakes do over half the work, leaving just enough so that the driver has a desirable amount of brake pedal feel.
Scott to operations. Steering wheel effort reduced to about 2 foot-pounds. According to my estimate, this is about 1/3 normal steering effort. No wheel fight or road shock at all. The car handles very responsively. Unusually good stability on straightaways and curves. 40 miles an hour. You know, this road feels like a flat-top stick. Weight, extra long wheelbase, 60-inch springs. The combination feels just about right. Now let's see how she climbs. Entering the 11.6% grade at 15 miles an hour. Foot off the gas, speed 10 miles an hour. Now I'll give her some power. Speed 12 miles. Speed 18. 24. 27. 32. And over the top at 40. Scott to operations. On the inside track of the speed loop now. Hydromatic lever in traffic range. My speed is 30 miles per hour. Shifting over to the next lane. My speed is 35 miles, accelerating rapidly. Now shifting over to the next speed lane. At 45 miles an hour in traffic range. Engine is running very smoothly at about 2,500 RPM. I need a little extra power for passing, so I've just pushed the gas pedal to the floorboard for an automatic shift down. Response is terrific. Car speed 60 miles an hour. Engine speed approximately 3,300 RPM. Now I'm going to shift into cruising range. Car speed remains the same, but engine speed drops 30% and is now barely over 2,200 RPM. The engine is just loafing along smooth as silk. Now I'm on the top of the track. All instrument readings on the nose. All control response excellent. Scott to operations, test procedure completed.
I'm coming in for a landing. But don't get me wrong, I could keep this up all day.
Yes, Pontiac's new performance will thrill expert drivers, good drivers, and ordinary drivers everywhere. For 1954, the eyes of all the world can look to Pontiac to set ever and ever higher standards of motoring value with 15 body styles, each filling its own individual place in the spectacular panorama of the finest motor cars to fit the most discriminating requirements. And for 1954, a display of more beautiful colors, warm reds, rich browns and tans, gay yellows and creams, shimmering greens, cool blues, restful grays, winter white, black that gleams with its own highlight. Look at Pontiac through what are to you the most important eyes in all the world, your own and your family's. Look at it from the standpoint of ownership, with a full understanding of its many features, its solid values. Look at Pontiac for 1954, for the wonderful big car values it gives you for so little. A masterpiece of distinction and prestige of which you can be so justly proud. Look at Pontiac to know all the joy, all the lasting satisfaction that only Pontiac can give you.
Morning, Billy.
Good morning, Mr. Davis.
Andy! Jack Ferguson, you old son of a gun. Where have you been these last... How long has it been?
7 long years.
What do you...
Boy, he's sure grown up in the last 7 years. The last time I saw him, I could hold him in one hand.
Yep. He's a chip off the old block. Well, that one's a little dark and fuzzy. It's the only one of me and the kids that came out.
Oh, that's a new house, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Terrific. Boy, you're sure coming up in the world. That new job you mentioned must be really paying off.
Yeah. Just 18 more years and 10 months till the bank gives me title, and it's mine. All mine. Here's another view from the front driveway.
Hey, nice car, too. That yours?
Yeah. It's Pontiac.
Boy, you are doing all right.
Oh, I just traded that one in. I got a new car now.
What kind you get this time?
Pontiac.
Another Pontiac?
Sure.
You mean you managed to chisel the best deal out of the same dealer twice?
Oh, I like the Pontiac. I like the way I was treated. That's why I went back to the same dealer.
That doesn't sound like you, an old car shopper from the way back.
I don't have to shop anymore. I found a car that I liked. What's more important, a dealer that I liked. Believe me, if you ever bought a car from Main Street Pontiac, you wouldn't want to trade any place else either.
Main Street, you say?
Yeah, we're old friends. You know 'em?
Well, as a matter of fact,
Well, let me tell you, Jack, you'd like them. How many business places can you walk into today and be treated the way you like to be treated?
Not many, I'm afraid.
Well, Main Street Pontiac is one of them. Let me tell you about the first time I looked at the Pontiac. I walked into their showroom one afternoon in a strictly in a just-looking mood. Any salesman could have seen that at a glance. But shucks, I wasn't any more in the door when a fella comes up, gives me a big smile, sticks out his hand, and introduces himself by name, just as though I was expected company. First thing you know, he has my name, and we're tossing car talk back and forth like a couple of old friends. And when I left,
Bill Morris made me feel that he'd enjoyed talking as much as I did.
And he sold you your first Pontiac.
And my second one, too. Got me a good deal on both trade-ins. But you know he's the only salesman that ever paid any attention to me after I bought my car. Why, he even called and reminded me of my 2,000-mile inspection and service, and he made it a point to be there when I drove in, and was very helpful in seeing that everything was tip-top. He even called attention to a minor adjustment of one of the doors. I hadn't even noticed. It was evident that Bill was really looking out for my interests. In fact, even though he's not in the service department, Bill sold me on Main Street service. In fact, I've never had my car serviced any other place. And whenever I see him on the street, he always says, "Hi there, Mr. Davis." He's always pleasant. Why, he even sends birthday cards to our kids. Oh, I'm just one of Bill's customers, but he always finds time to give me his personal attention. Like one time my car was in for service. Bill drove me clear across town so I could keep an appointment I'd made. Can you blame me for preferring to do business with a guy like that?
Sounds like a good salesman, Andy.
Oh, listen, Jack, they're all good salesmen down there. Whoever you talk to. Take the owner, Mr. Burke. I was picking up my car one day, and Mr. Burke came over and introduced himself. Asked me if I was satisfied with the service. Just checking, I guess. When the boss of a place goes out of his way to make sure I'm happy, I like it.
Of course, there's always the possibility that it's you. You know, personality.
Thanks for the compliment. It's the same treatment for everybody. I've seen it. For instance, I've watched the way they handle their service customers. There's always a serviceman to say, "Hello," and he tells you where to put your car. You don't have to wait around cooling your heels, hoping maybe somebody will discover you. Not at Main Street, Pontiac. Even if you have to wait a little bit, you've been greeted, and you know that they know you're there. Funny how a little thing like that can make waiting a lot easier. When your turn comes, he introduces himself by name, and he's all yours. You're his #1 priority for as long as you need him. Whatever promise he makes, you can be sure he'll keep it. Take the little cashier. That little girl always has a big smile for you. Never fails. You know how they stamp your bill paid and call again some places and let it go at that? Not at Main Street, Pontiac. You get a personal, "Thank you, Mr. Davis. Come back again." Of course, I admit it's a cute little gal saying it. But the point is, it makes you feel like coming back. You know, there are plenty of places where instead of a smile, you get a face like this. Then when you give them some money, they don't even say thanks. And when it's time to leave, do I have to go out and find my car? Not at Main Street. They bring the car to me. And again, it's, "Thanks, Mr. Davis." Well, it all adds up to this. Even though my business may not be big, they make me feel big. Anywhere in the place, everyone at least nods a friendly greeting to you. You can't help but feel they're a nice bunch of people who figure it's not only good business, but a heck of a lot more fun to be on friendly terms with their customers. And what does it cost them? Nothing. What does it get them? Well, I'm only one guy. How many more are there like me?
There you are, Mr. Ferguson. Shiny as a new Pontiac.
They sure are, Billy. That's why I keep coming back here. Good work and friendly.
Thanks a lot, Billy. Here's for both, Billy. And keep the change for that friendly smile.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. And thank you, Mr. Davis.
Where are you headed for now, Jack?
Uptown.
Well, I'm going that way, too. If you got your car, can I give you a lift?
Hey, thanks. As a matter of fact, you can drive me uptown.
Okay, where to?
Main Street, Pontiac.
Say, did I do that good job of selling? You're going right up and buy yourself a new Pontiac?
Oh, no. I just bought one over at Springfield. Left it at Main Street for the 2,000-mile service. Been driving them for years, ever since we moved to Springfield. We've got a pretty good Pontiac dealership there, too. Sold me 4 Pontiacs in a row, and I've compared deals all over town.
And you let me ramble on about my dealer like a long-playing record.
Sorry, Andy, but I was really interested to hear what you had to say. I thought I'd found one dealer in a million, and I'm glad to know there are others. It just goes to prove that a little common courtesy and friendly interest on the part of all the people at any dealership really pays off.
Right. I wonder if there's any special reason why you and I could find these things in Pontiac dealerships. Couldn't find them anyplace else.
Sure is good business to have good friends.
Price the car that sets the pace for luxury at low cost, and you'll be the owner of a new 1954 Pontiac Star Chief. You'll have not only the biggest, finest, and most powerful Pontiac ever built, you'll also command a car with performance, size, and luxury of the very best. No other car with a Star Chief's 214-inch overall length is priced so low. No car at any price has more distinguished interiors. No car provides more comfort and more thrilling performance. You'll enjoy, too, Pontiac's unsurpassed reputation for year-in, year-out dependability and economy. Come in soon. See Pontiac. Drive Pontiac. Price Pontiac for unquestionable proof that here is top-flight, fine car quality and performance with practical thrift, long life, and low price. For performance unmatched at the price, buy Pontiac. Of all the things you get in the big, beautiful new Pontiac, none will please you more than its performance. Pontiac's big, high-compression engine has all the power you'll ever need for quick acceleration, challenging hills, and cruising along the open road. Pontiac gives you a long wheelbase for a restful, comforting ride, economy of operation and maintenance, and an unsurpassed reputation for dependability. Like all fine cars, Pontiac offers as optional equipment dual-range hydromatic drive, power steering, power brakes, electric window lifts, and exclusive comfort control front seat. Priced right next to the lowest, Pontiac for 1954 offers an unmatched combination of quality and low cost. Drive Pontiac and you'll want it. Price Pontiac and you'll buy it. Pontiac puts a new low ceiling on fine car costs. You'll never find a better buy than this big, beautiful, powerful Pontiac. Pontiac is the one fine car at a popular price, the only car combining fine car size, fine car luxury, and fine car performance at a cost near the lowest. You'll have to go way up the price scale to find a car to match Pontiac's 214 inches. And behind the wheel, you'll discover a new high in smoothness, quietness, and responsiveness, along with economy and unsurpassed dependability. And then take a look at Pontiac's price tag for final proof that Pontiac has lowered the cost of luxurious travel to the point where if you can afford any new car, you can afford a Pontiac. Drive Pontiac and you'll want it. Price Pontiac and you'll buy it. Just price the beautiful new Pontiac. That's good advice for anyone. Because if you do just two things, you'll make a firm decision to buy Pontiac. First, get behind the wheel and drive the new 1954 Pontiac. You'll be very pleasantly surprised at its spectacular performance and marvelous handling ease. Look around you at Pontiac's luxurious fine car appointments. Then price Pontiac, and you'll learn that you just can't buy more quality or finer performance anywhere near Pontiac's low price. A price so low, in fact, that you can have all of Pontiac's wonderful new power options, such as power brakes, power steering, and dual-range hydromatic drive, and still spend less than you would for standard models of many makes. Come in at your first opportunity. Drive Pontiac and you'll want it. Price Pontiac and you'll buy it. Go Pontiac, and you go with thrilling performance and dependability. You go in fine car luxury and comfort. Best of all, you can go Pontiac at a cost right next to the lowest. Drive Pontiac and you'll want it. Price Pontiac and you'll buy it. Go Pontiac, and you go in luxury that compares with America's finest cars, plus Pontiac's spectacular performance and long-range economy. Remember, Pontiac is priced just above the lowest. Drive Pontiac and you'll want it. Price Pontiac and you'll buy it.
Go Pontiac and you go with amazing economy because despite its fine car size, its fine car performance, and its fine car luxury, Pontiac is priced right next to the lowest. Drive Pontiac and you'll want it. Price Pontiac and you'll buy it.